Do you miss Rhett? Are you sad that Rhett's not here, Bill? I feel like
Of
Rhett's your favorite.
course.
I feel like if
Definitely.
you have a
Yeah, for
favorite
sure.
on
Yeah.
the show, it's Rhett, and he's not here.
He's everybody's favorite,
He
man.
likes
Come on,
Denver
stop.
more than he likes you, I think
Yeah.
is what it comes down to.
That's all right. I don't mind playing second fiddle. It's okay. Yeah.
He's chosen bad weather and high altitude over your company. I don't know.
Dude, what are you trying to start beef here for, man? Come on, stop. Stop it.
We're just stating facts.
Yeah.
I have no sides.
I'm not afraid to admit it. Rhett's my
Making
favorite.
observations.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the DeFi Podcast. It's Thursday, February 27th, and we're recording this around early afternoon. So if anything crazy happens between now and tomorrow when the podcast comes out, please don't come after us. My name is Bill, and as always, I'm joined here by JF, our resident DeFi architect. JF, how are you doing today, bud?
Great. And crazy things may happen between now and tomorrow.
Very
I
possible.
expect crazy things to happen. So yeah, we're going to be missing
It's
out
one
on
of
some
those
of that. But
days.
we can pre-comment, I think.
Yeah. And Jared is also here. Jared has been heads down working extremely hard at GoGoPool to ship some new features that we're excited to talk about today. Jared, how are you doing today, bud?
Pretty good, you know. Prices are falling. That makes me happy.
Sort of.
Stop, dude. I hate that. Okay, we're definitely cutting that out. Rhett
No, I mean,
is,
like, listen, not everyone is wealthy. You know, for the poor, it's better, and for the already wealthy, it's bad, right? Because the poor now get a buying opportunity. So stop thinking
listen,
just about yourself, Bill.
you think
Like,
you
think
just
about
called
poor
Jared
Jared.
poor? Man, he's
You
been
know,
mining
I
Bitcoin
mean,
for
he
10
outed
years.
himself.
Stop,
Like,
dude. Yeah.
I'm fully growing into my, perma-bull attitude. So I'm just
You know why
I'm
he's
just gonna
happy,
roll
actually?
with it.
You know why he's happy is because Bitcoin is fine. It's everything else that's cratering. That's why he's happy.
ooh, Bitcoin is down quite a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. It's like at 95,000. Okay, fine.
It's at 84
It's
today.
pretty bearish.
Is
84.
it 84?
84.
Dear Lord.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, terrible. Okay. Rhett, unfortunately, is out this week, but he's at ETH Denver having a lot of fun. He'll be back next week. I'm sure he'll give us the full rundown. I know he's going to like 17 side events a day. I wish I was there with him, but unfortunately, all three of my kids have been sick nonstop for the last month. This apartment has basically been a vomitorium. Today is the first day where they're all back at school. So thankfully, we have some time to record the DeFi podcast today, which is good because we have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Just as a quick preview, some of the things we're going to try to get to is, number one, what's happening with DOGE in Washington, D.C. And it's really fascinating, but there's also an interesting blockchain aspect to it that we can chat about. Second, what we were alluding to earlier about something crazy happening today or tomorrow, which is the Epstein List could potentially be released today, which also has an interesting blockchain angle that we can chat about. Last week, we had the biggest hack in crypto history, Bybit, which we'll try to talk about. And also, we're going to dive into a brand new product that's being released by GoGoPool, which is basically a way for them to launch, a way for them to allow the community to launch Avalanche L1s, the first one being Coqnet, which I'm going to, Jared, we're going to lean into your expertise on that, if that's all right. So let's get right to it. First, sorry, go ahead.
It's the first totally decentralized L1, right? That is launching decentralized from like essentially day one. So
through Avalanche.
Kind of a big
through
event.
Avalanche.
Yeah.
It is the first post ACP 77 public chain to go live that has, community members staking and validating.
Awesome. Can't wait to get to that. Okay. But first, let's talk about Doge. So Doge has, of course, been making a ton of headlines, basically since Trump got elected. It's nonstop in the news and on crypto Twitter all day, every day. And it's just really been a fascinating thing to watch because, we're essentially getting a whole bunch of transparency into what the government has been doing with our money. And it doesn't look good. Some of the things that they've been spending money on, to be honest, kind of makes you pause, like, is this actually real? And the blockchain element of this thing, before I pass it on to you, JF, because I know you have some interesting stuff to say on this topic, but the blockchain element of it could be a really big deal because they did publicly announce that they are considering they are talking to a number of different blockchain infrastructure providers, including, actually, we have no idea whether or not they're talking to Avalanche, but we know that we would love for them to do that because it would be absolutely incredible to unleash the Zach expertise of the world on government spending, basically to try to keep people honest. And I want to share one example of this real quick. Let me just share screen if that's possible. Share screen. This one, boom. Okay, so I just want to share this. You guys can see this Twitter account, right? This Data Republican. So there's this I'm just going to briefly go into this. There's this random Twitter account called Data Republican. All this person is doing is basically taking information that's being released by DOGE on how the government has been funding NGOs and making that information public. And you can go to their profile, and they have these really awesome breakdowns on, basically trying to cut through the nonsense and the obfuscation that go through like all these different legal entities and say, like, where is the money that we're actually giving to NGOs going? Now, why is this interesting? It's interesting because this person basically had a full-time job until, I don't know, a month or so ago, and just started publishing a lot of the data about what the government is doing with our money. And then like put up a subscription, put up an ability for people to subscribe to their page. And all of a sudden they just started getting a massive amount of subscriptions, 500,000 Twitter followers, and they quit their job. And now this is what they do full time. They basically just reveal to us what the government is doing with our money, and this is like, I think the first example of what's going to happen basically in the next 5 or 10 years. Like, we're going to get a lot more transparency into government funding, and it's all going to be on blockchain, and we're all going to be sifting through it. And it's going to be a totally new paradigm for how public finances are treated. And I'm really excited for that. So I guess maybe let me pause there, JF, and let me pass it on to you to talk about Doge and what you've been following there.
Yeah, I mean, I think your commentary is interesting. It sort of makes me think about Jeff Bezos talks about there's two types of decisions in an organization. There's decisions that you can there's sort of like a one-way doors and two-way doors. So there's decisions that you make and you can't really undo. If we were able to get all the government spending to be on blockchains, it's very hard to walk that back. Like, once it's on blockchains and it actually functions this way, which is obviously like a tall order, right? Like, you'd have to get sort of like everyone to be compliant, and the tech is still kind of young. But it would be fun to start testing this out. And one would think that within 4 years, or maybe this sort of term with this team lasts 8 years, possibly, at least looking good at this time. Maybe you have time to sort of get all that stuff out on blockchains. And once it's on blockchains, it's not going back. It just isn't. Like, we just sort of have seen, like, it's a one-way door, right? Like, you're not switching back. And then I think we'd be stuck with this system forever. And it would obviously change the way humanity just works. It's the blockchain dream, right? Like, everything is transparent, and we see all the grift. So that would be a kind of a dream come true. Yeah.
I will add that sometimes some of these things that seem great at first can turn out to be not so great once you start going down that path. Because I'm sure everybody can imagine how awesome it would be to have all of the government spending fully transparent, where how many countries, the US is sending $100 million to, so that they can do insane programs for absolutely no reason. I think the issue is that how that could potentially be extended onto the citizens of the country. And I think people would have a vastly different opinion of having everything fully transparent and on chain, when now the IRS can come in and say, you gave $2 to somebody on the street, right? Now that person has to pay taxes on $2 because, like, you, I don't know, bought a hot dog from them or something. When they could, like, when you think about this is the same potential problem that we could have with when, CBDCs were like a big topic of discussion. You could potentially have the same issue here where, small untraceable cash transactions that are small and no one should care about are now fully transparent and can be, like, completely totaled up in the era of, inflation and crazy prices on everything. Having to, like, pay taxes on, like, little tiny transfers that should honestly not matter to anybody doesn't sound so great. But some people will try to push that as an extension of this same system, as like, they'll come up with some scary example of like, oh, we're going to be funding bad people doing bad things, but then they're going to extend that onto all the good people doing good things. This happens every time with government. Government can't be trusted. DOGE is now part of the government. They may be doing some good things, but that doesn't mean they're going to be doing good things forever.
Yeah, and I know Powell had a Senate testimony hearing or something where he talked about how there will be no central bank digital currency in the States. But as you said, he's not going to be in power forever, and Trump and the Republicans are not going to be in power forever. So yeah, they could. You put this into public finances, I would feel much more comfortable if there was some sort of hard mechanism that basically said, hey, it's only public finances and not private finances. I don't know what that looks like. I like where we are right now, but yeah, when you're talking about 10 or 20 years into the future, it's kind of hard to rule out the possibility that someone in charge is gonna be like, yeah, every dollar you spend, let's put on a blockchain so that we can go scrutinize it later. Yeah, and I'm not a fan of that, of course. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about something a little bit more immediate, which is the potential release of the Epstein List. This is really, maybe topical for blockchains, because what's fascinating is you can now go see in real time the probability of the Epstein List being released, like over the next 100 days, over the next day, like who's going to be on the list. Actually, let me just bring it up real quick. So if we go to Polymarket, which is just absolutely incredible website, right? So Polymarket, when you go to the main Polymarket page, you can see like what are the main bets that are trending right now. You can see there's a bunch of them that are Epstein, like will Trump declassify, here, let's see. Trump declassifies Epstein List in the first 100 days. So I think you can see basically it was roughly a 50% chance until last night when a tweet went out saying that they were going to probably release it today, and it went up to 95%. JF, were you betting on this? Were you actively trading this market?
Yes.
Yeah. What was that experience? What was your experience using Polymarket like?
It's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
I have a question.
Easy to move in and out, and it's a pretty simple product to use. It's a really I love this use of blockchain, like this case for using
Which one did
distributed
you
systems.
bet on? The 100 days? Is that the one that you bet on?
Yeah, I was betting that they would release it within 100 days.
Got it. So you made money on this one.
Is there a market for whether or not Bill Clinton is on the list? Because
yes,
I might like to
so.
get in.
Yes.
Yeah, hold on. Let me bring it up. Hold on. So, okay, here, boom. This is who will be named in Epstein's list by June 30th. Okay. And then a decent amount of volume, $1.5 million worth of volume. And Bill Clinton, I mean, there's pictures of him going there, right? So 77%, he's probably one. Actually, what I want to do is a 12-way parlay and just bet yes on every one of these people, that would be incredible. Ellen DeGeneres, 50%. What's Ellen DeGeneres doing over there? It's crazy. No, but what's just fascinating is to me, the really fascinating thing is I don't even really have to go look at the news, right? I don't need to go to some NBC website and see what they have to say. Who cares? I can just come right here, and this is real money betting on the actual, this is probably more reliable, and you can get the information immediately by outsourcing the information to the wisdom of the markets rather than listening to some, quote unquote journalist who works for a, for-profit media company. Who cares what they have to say, right?
Here's an AI idea for anybody out there who may be listening. Make a Twitter news bot that does not pay attention to any mainstream media, and you just report on stories based on what the results of betting on Polymarket
It's pretty
is.
good. It would definitely be way more accurate than CNN. There's no question about it. I would definitely, if I was on a deserted island and you gave me both options, CNN or that bot, I would definitely want that bot as as a source of news. Hey, so on this Epstein list, yeah, I guess I have a take that might be worth sharing. So I think this is going to be a number of phases, and what this looks like to me currently with all the reporting that Elon is doing and all of these different files that are about to come out. I think what I mean, this seems a pretty obvious take. It seems to me that the Trump administration just wants to sort of show all of the grift, and publicly sort of drag this on for as long as they can, and for it to be as impactful as they can. And I think you're probably not going to see any prosecutions in the first phase of this. It's more like a media campaign that I think he's running right now. It's like, look at everything that's been happening. Like, let's give some sunshine on all this, and let's show everyone who voted against me what they were actually voting against. Let's turn them towards us. Because I think if you wanted to go after certain figures right now, let's say, I don't know, Hunter Biden or Fauci, I think that would be difficult. I think a lot of people would be trying to defend those people. But I think if you run this media campaign for about 6 months or 18 months, where you just show a bunch of grift, and Sesame Street in Iraq gets $20 million, and pottery classes in Morocco gets $2 million, and the senator's wife who is on the committee has a nonprofit who gets like 8 million a year. If you continuously get this stuff out, and the grift is much deeper than I think even I was expecting, and I had some views on this,
I mean, dude,
like,
$2 billion to a Stacey Abrams organization that had $100 in the bank and did nothing. Like, what, $2 billion, dude? What's happening, dude? Yeah, it's much
yeah.
worse than I thought, right? Yeah.
So I think if you play this out, like maybe the sort of the general public becomes, very Republican friendly, and then they can actually in sort of a public court or in a court of law, they can then actually go after different people who were involved in these things. So hopefully there's a phase one, and then there's a phase two, where it's not just we're going to name you and shame you, or maybe actually, prison time would be nice for I think some of these people.
I mean, definitely, dude. Some of the scuttlebutt is true about what happened there. Yeah, like, yeah. But I mean, if some of what they're saying is true, like, I mean, 200, 250 actual plus victims of, essentially like serious sexual assault,
I mean,
like
for Epstein for sure, right?
a
Like,
bunch of people
but
should go to
yeah,
jail, right? Like, of course they should.
mhm,
I mean, why not?
of course, yeah.
I look, I think a lot of people like to, like, on crypto Twitter and the mainstream media, they love to complain about how like Trump is just bumbling around and is an idiot. Doesn't I mean, he is where he is and we are where we are. Like, he's a pretty smart dude. And in my opinion, what he's doing is like, look, the whole tariff thing is actually quite dangerous for markets. Like, if markets think that tariffs are actually going to go through and stick around for a long time, inflation and potential rate hikes could be a really bad thing for the economy. I don't think Trump wants it to go there. I think he just wants to use it as a negotiating tool. But, basically, in order to counteract that potential negative story in the media, and financial markets are forward looking, they're also like saying like, look at all this really efficient things that we're getting done with the government. Like, the grift, fraud, waste, and abuse is actually much more massive than we thought it was, and we can make the government much more efficient both in the short term and in long term if we focus our efforts on Doge. So I think like part of it is like, okay, like they have limited time. They're trying to get stuff done quickly. They want to make sure that like they strike while the iron is hot. They always say the first 100 days of a presidency are the most important. But also it's like, look, they are playing with this kind of heavy tool, tariffs, and they want to counteract it with something that also like has a positive impact for the economy, namely like shrinking the size of government and returning that capital back to like the productive part of the economy. Anyway, that's my optimistic take. We'll see if that actually ends up being true or not. We'll see.
Yeah. So as usual, I have a bit of a uncommon take on this thing. I think tariffs are the best thing you could possibly do for a country. If you are trying to stabilize and improve the like sustainability of your own economy, the absolute best thing you could do is have tariffs. Because look at the free trade situation. How much production capacity and productivity has the US lost because they have free trade agreements and then all of their industries go overseas? They have car manufacturing in Mexico, some of it happens in Canada. They've got all kinds of their super important, parts and pieces for you name it. Name an industry, probably more than 50% of it's made in China and imported to the States. If you had tariffs in place that encouraged, U.S. Manufacturing to actually allow to happen, then people are not going to be shipping those things overseas as much. Those products are going to be built in the States, and then you don't have to deal with price gouging or insane shipping costs or delays. You have a strong industry built in your own country. You can pay Americans for that. You don't need to go and do that somewhere else. There's a lot of, I think, grift that goes on in some of these places where people say that like, oh yeah, well, China will make it for a tenth the price, but there are unseen costs that go along with paying China 10% of the cost to build a part that you can build in the US. And I think that it's not apparent at first, but over the long term, it absolutely is terrible for your economy, and like just not having production capacity or manufacturing capability is just bad. Like there's no like reasonable argument for somebody to say we shouldn't have our own manufacturing in our own country.
Well, so I sort of fall between you guys, I guess, on this. I think in the past, you actually wanted to have free trade between different nations because we sort of had like a lack of competence and knowledge and capacity and so on. But as you're moving into the age of robotics and AI, you just don't need that. Like you don't need to be making everything, specialized, across the planet because you're creating a bunch of new labor through higher productivity and robotics and so on. So I think if there was ever a time to pull back, now's the time. And I do think, yeah, it's gonna work out well to bring manufacturing back to all countries, um, especially the
So
U.S., which has like a lot of energy and then great navigable rivers and so on and so on. Like the U.S. is obviously able to stand alone. The U.S. has always had a labor shortage, and if you solve that by better manufacturing techniques,
I disagree with
good.
that. The US has never had
Um,
a labor shortage. The US has had a paying people proper wages shortage. But the meme about we need more workers, we need more workers falls flat on its face when you look at the fact that AI is going to replace, coders, drivers, robotics is going to replace shipping and manual labor. So you're going to have like a significant portion of the labor force just eradicated in probably the next 5 to 10 years. Why do we need to
yes.
bring in 10 times more workers? That sounds terrible for the country.
Yeah, but by bringing in more workers, I meant AI, right? But the yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, there's going to be a lot of friction, and but you're the doomsday sayer, so that's your view, and my view is always going to be optimistic. I think over time this works out, but I will definitely agree that there will be probably some massive friction in between there and now. Um, yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's shift gears now a little bit and talk about this absolutely, massive and terrible hack that happened last week with Bybit. I was at the computer when it happened, and I was like, "Oh man, like this is going to be terrible." Because so basically, everyone has heard about this at this point, but Bybit is the second biggest exchange, centralized exchange in the world after Binance. I think they're based South Korea, right? And they're, I don't know, to be honest, because as a New Yorker, I can't use any of these exchanges, unfortunately. But Bybit was moving some assets from a cold storage wallet to what they call a warm wallet, for whatever regular exchange reasons for using collateral. And somehow North Korea figured out a way to mask the address that the assets were going to be sent to. And essentially, these guys sent $1.5 billion, roughly $1.6 billion worth of Ethereum from an exchange wallet to a wallet controlled by North Korea, and then those assets have basically been there, and I think everything was basically swapped from whatever it was to Ethereum right away, and now they're sitting in a wallet, and uh, you know there's no way really to get it back from us from an actor like North Korea. JF, I know you have some more details in this, and you kind of have experience in this area of managing like more institutional type assets. So, do you want to add on what happened here?
I think by the markets, number one, like no one sort of panicked. No one, no, it didn't, have contagion. Like it didn't destroy a bunch of other projects. Obviously, prices down, but we will survive this. And then Bybit was very available during this time, and they were sort of like all around praise for this. So it sort of signals to me that the industry is getting more mature. So that's like the first bit of good news. The second bit of good news is that this was not a smart contract hack. Um, and we are seeing less and less of those. And this is a trend now. So some of the latest biggest hacks in recent memory. So you have like Axie Infinity, Radiant, and Bybit. These are all OPSEC based. So this is not the actual smart contract code that is launched on the blockchain. This is like someone impersonating someone and getting access to a machine by sending them, let's say, like faulty PDF with malicious code, and then gaining control on their backend or something like that. So it's a new level of attack, which I think shows that there's maturity in smart contract coding and the audit system. So that is working. I think what needs to happen next, and it's actually something that we're doing at Avant, is um, you're going to want to normalize having some sort of um, OPSEC audit system. So we have smart contract audits. No one's doing OPSEC audits, and I think teams in general don't really, they'll when you're launching a startup, you just can't do everything, and this hasn't been normalized yet that you should have someone on your team that's like an OPSEC expert. But I think this is like the next thing that needs to happen. Which the good news is that there's a bunch of people who know how to do operational security because it's not Solidity coding specific. So this is something that you could take from like previous technology industries and bring to Web3. So this should be pretty solvable. I think the first step is to recognize this, and I'm sure I think the sort of like the sharper teams are recognizing it. And just in terms of details, I think what happened here is that it wasn't actually Bybit that was targeted. It was actually Safe. Safe is a multi-sig wallet that pretty much all projects use, or most projects use under some form or another. So that part is actually a little bit scary because this could have affected any or almost any project that is using this technology, which is all projects.
It was actually their front
So
end that got hacked. Yeah.
sorry.
It was the front end of the Gnosis Safe wallet that got hacked, and Bybit basically trusted that the Safe
Yeah.
wallet website was safe, so to speak, and they trusted that incorrectly.
I think my understanding is that they injected malicious JS code in actually their AWS service, and then the Bybit team was trying to do a transaction, and the transaction looked completely normal, but it
Yeah,
just wasn't. So it was, and these hacks are scary or these security issues are scary because it could happen. It could have happened to any team. So it really wasn't Bybit's fault. If anything, the blame rests on Safe. And but I draw positive science out of this.
I agree. Yeah, I mean it's like you said, it's less common to see smart contracts just getting exploited for whatever reason, and then it's not like all of their money got drained. They got drained by a specific targeted hack to a system that wasn't secured in a very peculiar way. And I think
Yeah, I mean, I think they targeted
after
one engineer specifically. By the way, that's the same thing that happened with Axie,
mm,
which was a big hack. I think in that case we know a bit more because it happened a while ago. And uh, just to refresh everyone's memory on it, one of the engineers had been offered a job on LinkedIn by a malicious group, and the job was very, very well paying. And I guess that engineer was very excited to take on this new role. And they had a number of interviews together, and then they sent him a PDF with malicious code, which he opened from his work machine, and that is the basis for how that sort of went down. So these hacks are actually pretty sophisticated and scary, and but I think we just need to, as an industry, recognize that this is the new sort of vector of attack and start covering that ground. Yeah.
well, the lucky thing for everyone else is that every time one of these things happen, the scrutiny starts to increase on all of these different sectors.
Yeah.
Someone, I forget who tweeted this, but someone tweeted out that like, look, the technical details, you can kind of, amend them, make them better, make them more robust, etc. But the reality is, unfortunately, like the North Korean hackers and people like them, they're just so incredibly good at what they're doing and so motivated to steal money that whatever security measures you implement, they will figure out a way to hack the people who are in charge of them. Like whatever security, there's nothing that's going to be totally secure. So, I mean, to me, the thing that struck me was, these guys at Bybit got a ton of accolades for their comms, and they should. The crisis management was incredible. Like that weekend was very. I think it was a weekend, right? It was like, did it start on Friday night? I forget when it started, but very fraught weekend, right? So like they definitely deserve a ton of accolades for navigating it properly. But the first time I heard the story, I was like, are they putting like $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum in a single wallet? Like, it just sounds like, regardless of how much security you put around it, like someone is going to figure out a way to get at that one point of, attack. But maybe they're just so big that $1.5 billion to them is not, it sounds like they're going to survive it okay. So maybe it's not a huge, maybe like as a percentage of their running revenue or something, it's fine. But I couldn't believe that they had just one wallet with that much Ethereum, where if you hack that single wallet, no matter how secure it is, they can basically remove such a huge chunk of ETH all at one shot. It really shocked me. One thing you learn when you start on a trading desk, when you start trading at all, you start moving risk around, is you never do everything in one shot. Like, you never put all of your eggs in one basket. And that can mean a lot of things in crypto, like, because there's a lot of different attack vectors. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I was kind of shocked a little bit by it. I'm happy they navigated it properly. And I think they did a great job doing it after the crisis happened. But $1.5 billion in a single wallet just sounds like, dude, like, oh my God, it'd just make me sweat if I was the CEO of Bybit to have that, But anyway, okay. Let's move on. Let's move on from Bybit. And Jared, I want to lean into some of the work that you've been doing recently. This is a really fascinating time for Avalanche. Just to refresh people who maybe don't know, at the end of last year, Avalabs released what they called Avalanche 9000, which was a series of technical upgrades to the Avalanche architecture and ecosystem. It basically makes it easier for people to launch permissionless subnets, or permissionless L1s, permissionless their own chains. And I believe Coqnet is the first one that's being launched at all, and it's being done through GoGoPool. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, where it is, how people can participate, what's happening. And I know you've been working very hard on it. Yeah. So Jared, what do you think about what's going on with Coqnet?
I think it's super exciting. It does show the potential for what's to come. There's a lot of work going into it. Right now, we're kind of still in like a testing phase. I think Coqnet is a really good way to prove that this system works, that the system is scalable.
But when you say it's in a testing phase, it's live on mainnet, right?
It's absolutely live. It's just, like what we're doing right now is we're going out, launching 1,000 nodes on the chain. People can come in, participate, stake your, Coq tokens. You'll get a 9,000% APY. That's 9,000% for 1 month on roughly $20 worth of Coq tokens.
Hold on. So let me just pause you there. So someone who's into Avalanche and wants to launch their own validator, they have to buy $20 worth of Coq and then go to the GoGoPool. How does it work?
So we've got our L1 marketplace platform. This is where we're going to be hosting all of the different L1s that we're planning to launch, not just the ones that we launch, but all of the, ACP 77 independent L1s.
Okay, stop. Pause there 1 second. I'm just going to go to the website. So I'm here at this website, L1s.GoGoPool, right? Is this the site we're talking about? Okay,
yep,
so if I scroll down here, so walk us through this.
Yeah, so if you look at the first entry there, you can see Coqnet is classified as a stage 2 L1, and it currently has 199 validators running on the chain. And that means that 199 people have chosen to come into the system. You can click on the next page, and then click on Coqnet itself.
Okay, boom, yep.
So you can see, so far 199 people have come in here. They've clicked stake now. They have staked their tokens. They've launched a node, and now those nodes are running on the chain. It's worth mentioning this is a promotional period. This is not a long-lasting, like this is the way that it's going to work, because as an example, Coqnet is a meme coin. All of their tokens are minted. So the that 9,000% APY that we are rewarding to the stakers on this chain is coming from a budget. It's not coming from native minting on the chain. So this is going to be a promotional period where we test out the scalability of these chains. We're launching this out. We're giving access to lots of people to come in and participate. We are kind of doing it in batches. So in stage 1, we let a few people in just to test the system, make sure that it worked in kind of full production mode. In stage 2, we've done basically a whitelist where we asked the Coq community to just put a reply in our tweet about why you'd like to run a node or run a validator on Coqnet. We got an overwhelming number of replies. I think we were looking for filling out 200 slots, and we got almost 700 responses. And
Nice.
so next week is going to be batch 3, and then we're going to be opening up about 1,100 spots for anyone to come in and stake their Coq tokens and run a node for 30 days. After that period, the Coqnet Climax will be entering a refractory period, where it goes back to a POA state while they start to launch the community-built decentralized applications on the chain. So they're planning to have a bunch of different casino apps. There's going to be, I think, like a slot machine. There may be a betting market. There may be a bunch of different, things coming up. The idea is to, start building community involvement in this chain, get people excited, interested, and participating on the first proof of stake Avalanche L1 that is kind of post ACP 77.
Okay. So, but listen, and as far as what you can do on the chain right now, is it more of just a proof of concept of just having people come in and launch a validator on their own chain, but there's nothing really actually happening on Coqnet yet? Or is there plans to actually do things on the chain that, like, it's its own chain, right? It's producing its own blocks. Yep. It can send messages back and forth between the C chain or to any other chain, right? But like, what's the actual like economic activity that's taking place on the chain right now, if any?
So for now, the system is we're testing the chain launching and staking systems. After this period, they're going to go into the launching of applications. So for now, what you can do is launch the nodes, stake your tokens, get your rewards out at the end. After we've done this period, it'll go back into POA for a little while, where then they'll start launching the actual applications. So that's the plan for Coqnet. After Coqnet, GoGoPool is planning to start launching more chains. There's a lot of them coming. We have a pretty extensive pipeline of projects looking to launch their own chains. Not sure how many of them I can talk about, but I can just say it's quite a few.
Got it. And what about the hardware that's behind this stuff? So is it the hardware being provided by one centralized provider, or how does that work? Is it like a decentralized group, or what's going on there?
So GoGoPool has a decentralized cloud of providers, pretty much. We have a whole bunch of different individuals or validator groups. We have all different kinds of participants that range from, the most, the highest, TVL validator groups, all the way down to some individuals who are running, one node on their home computer. So we want to go in the direction of, actual decentralization, but also like distribution, right? Where a lot of different people can participate in the system. So we've got almost 30 different node providers who are running nodes on this chain right now. And they're able to run, multiple nodes based on the volume of staking transactions coming in from the retail side.
So, I mean, this is like it's a nice demo. It's a live demo. It's a real demo with real things happening. Although there isn't like a full set of applications launched, but it's the first, like we said at the beginning of the show, it's the first like actual sort of decentralized from day one L1 on Avalanche, and it's done with this sort of fun wrapper where we can make fun of each other and have sort of juvenile jokes about, well, Jared loves cock and Bill's held some cock before and probably also likes cock. Yeah, so it's like it's a dream come true. On a different topic, I think it would be fun to have probably like a full pod on GoGoPool 9000.
Yep.
When can we do that, Jared? When are you going to be ready
GoGoPool 9000 as opposed to Avalanche 9000?
Yes.
Yeah, so coming pretty soon, we're going to be announcing or launching GoGoPool 9000, which is our plan for launching, validating, and more for chains. And so The idea is to take all of the different, personas of users from the retail market, traders and stakers and purchasers of tokens, speculators, to the people who are interested in the technical side. They want to run validators, they want to run nodes, maybe they want to run RPCs, what have you. And then also the projects themselves who want to launch chains. We want to basically simplify the user experience for all of these people and make it super easy for you to, one, launch your chain, two, get it validated by professional operators, and three, market that out to the community. Find people interested in staking your tokens or buying your tokens, or whatever you can think of, really, man, pretty much.
I, I think everyone knows GoGoPool as liquid staking protocol. I think the liquid staking piece is nice, and it's a high quality product, and it's makes sense in terms of the sort of previous thinking on economics and so on. But the main goal of GoGoPool was always to make launching L1s,
Yeah,
to facilitate the launching of L1s. And I think GoGoPool 9000 is a huge step in that direction. So we've talked about the L1 launcher, like specifically Bud and Aaron, I think Jared and Steven have all sort of like talked publicly about L1 launcher, L1 marketplace. Um, but it sort of all comes together under the guise of GoGoPool 9000, which
yeah,
we haven't actually
exactly.
talked about publicly really ever. So this is a nice sort of like a little
Breaking
tease and
alpha.
preview.
I'm going to push you
Yeah.
for some more alpha here, Jared. If you can't answer this question, that's fine. Go ahead, don't answer it. But one thing that was really interesting was, I don't know if you guys follow Santiago, who's like a podcaster for the Empire podcast series, I think. Has a lot of really interesting takes on crypto and just talks to a bunch of projects. So basically, he just announced that he's going to be launching his own chain called Inversion, and it's a really interesting project. It's really fascinating. Like the project itself, first of all, seems really interesting because basically what he's going to do, my understanding of it at least, is that he wants to go look at regular businesses that are already successful and take a part of their business that makes sense and put it on chain, which I can think of a lot of ways where that would make a lot of sense. Of course, people have been talking about supply chain a lot for years. There's definitely a part where you could put like the finances part of it. So maybe it's like easy to, monitor what's happening for portfolio companies or something like that. But there's one thing, it's like an interesting take. Hey, let's just take something that's happening in the real world and hunt for things that we can put on chain that kind of makes sense. That's number one. And if he gets that right, dude, that's going to be huge. But the second thing that was really interesting was he chose to do it as an Avalanche L1, which is really big news for Avalanche, right? So, and he goes into why, and on some of the podcasts, and I don't want to just be an Avalanche maxi here for too long, but that was to me a very encouraging sign. But I guess I'm going to put you on the spot, Jared, in here and ask it. Do you know if this is something that's going to be launched through GoGoPool, or is that something you guys need to go have some BD calls about, or what's happening with that? Like, because this is actually an interesting question, right? Because if someone is thinking about launching an Avalanche L1, you want them to think, hey, come do it through GoGoPool's L1 launcher, right?
Yeah. So I can't answer specifically because I mostly deal with the validator side of the equation. So
like the
that would
technical
be,
side, like actually launching the hardware.
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, mostly I'm working on basically what you'd call like the
Jared is
infrastructure
the
side.
king of infra at GoGoPool.
Yeah.
Hey, let me redirect maybe this question and ask for a bit of alpha. GoGoPool 9000, will it add utility and demand for the GGP token? Not financial advice, but what do you think?
I think it will add significant utility and significant value to the token, not financial advice as well.
Nice.
Disclosure, I
Nice.
am long
Can't
GGP
wait to talk about
tokens.
it.
Disclosure. Okay.
Yeah, so am I. Yes, and so is Jared. I think everyone is. So yeah, that I'm happy to make that clear. Can we just breaking news before we end?
Is it really? It
Yes,
didn't come out, did it?
Alina Abba, not yet, but Alina Abba, who is a personal lawyer to Donald Trump, has been interviewed just now and says she expects the Epstein list to come out today, like
Well,
imminently.
hold on.
Uh,
Hold on. I'm going to check the market. Hold on. Let's do this live real quick. So
she is
let's go.
describing what is on the list as shocking, and she also says that she absolutely expects criminal charges to come as a result of
Oh
this.
my God.
So by the time this airs, excitement will have reigned. Yes.
Interesting. Wow. See, I guess how long ago was the tweet? It was maybe 20 minutes ago or something.
This
You can see
came out
there's a
in like
jump
there
in the
was like an
price.
interview with Piers Morgan that came out like 20 minutes ago or something.
Yeah, so, okay. There was a jump in this dude. Polymarket is crazy. Huh? That's crazy. So 20 minutes ago, the price jumped about, I don't know, what is that, 15% or something, but it's back down now.
And
So
it's going to get
okay, let's
more
go
and
there.
more. This is, what's interesting about what you're saying right now is that this is day one of Polymarket. Imagine Polymarket in 4 years when like there's going to be more money, more markets, more eyes. This is going to get more and more efficient. It's going
It's
to
gonna
be,
become more and more normalized, right? I mean, dude, right after the election, they had the guy, he lives in downtown Manhattan somewhere. They had like they raided the guy's house or something, right? Like for no reason, the CEO, right? And there's still
oh,
billions
that's
of
true.
dollars of
Yeah.
volume flowing through the system, right?
Yeah.
Imagine in four
Well,
years when it's like
that
more.
was still, it's funny because it's funny to think, it was still the Biden administration running that, right?
Jesus.
But
Yeah.
now they can't do it. Um,
Yeah.
They didn't like the result of
Fun times.
their bids of who's going to win the election.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
Can we just acknowledge for a second that while I do think this thing is definitely interesting, and I think participation is almost
I can feel the
I
bearish
would
shake incoming
no
here.
no 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 I would also like encourage participation in this thing because it's like a new paradigm where people can come and bet on the outcome of like real world events happening. I think this has always been like a thing that people have done for a long time,
You
but
could
it's
do it,
never
but it was like
been
hard. Now it's like just at the,
but
fingertips, right?
it's never been this accessible and
Hmm.
normalized. And I think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of absurdity to that, but it's absurdity that I'm not against. So I'm here for it.
cool. Okay, well, listen, there's a bunch of other stuff we could talk about, but let's wrap it up here and save it for next week. As we mentioned, Rhett should be back from ETH Denver next week. If there's anything that you guys would like us to talk about, please send us a DM, type in the comments. Please also like and subscribe, so we can get the viewers from 50 to 100, from 100 per episode. That would be great.
Well,
Awesome.
by the way, we also have viewers on other platforms, right? So it's not just YouTube, and it has been steadily growing. So
Oh, awesome.
yeah,
That's good to hear.
join the
Cool.
movement.
Cool. Okay. All right. Thanks. Have a good
Um,
weekend, guys.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.